Riccardo, is there a case to be made for more states in Australia?
Absolutely. The first warning bell that we need more states is when, take Queensland for example, the southeast corner of Queensland, where the majority of the population lives, drives the whole state, and that southeast corner is run by insane green ideology. And so you've got Liberal and Labor falling over themselves, both trying to be slightly more green than the other. Trouble is, you've got North Queensland, which has nothing in common with the southeast corner, and they are driven by this green ideology, and it's insane. So the North Queenslanders, and I lived and worked in North Queensland back in the 80s. It was my first posting to the 2nd 4th Battalion up in Laverick Barracks in Townsville. And they're a million miles away culturally and they're attitudinally to the southeast corner. That's a real frontier atmosphere up there. They've got a spine. They know what's right and wrong, and they're happy to vote that way. But they're being dragged unwillingly through this green nonsense. So they have a case to have another state called North Queensland, which is utterly independent from the remainder of Queensland, and they should be able to express their rights. Does that apply in other areas of the country? I believe it does. There should be more states added. Now, rationale, reasons why complicate it? Well, it doesn't complicate it. It actually helps. And there's two points I must make here. Firstly, with more states, it is harder then for a corrupt party, organisation, individual to control it. The Founding Fathers of the United States were very mindful of this, and so they built in to the system and intentional points of friction to make it hard to govern the US. And the reason it's hard, it compels compromise, it compels accommodation, sensible accommodation, and it makes it very hard for a lunatic or a demagogue or a party to then run the US, because it is so varied. They have 50 states, as we know. And so this would make it harder for a globalist agenda to penetrate. Because I can guarantee you, if North Queensland existed as a state, they wouldn't be doing what Comrade Dan is doing in Victoria. And the people would vote with their feet, and they'd move up to North Queensland and turn it into the most prosperous, wealthy, happiest place, freest place on the planet. So there's that aspect. And the last warning sign, if you don't believe me on those two issues, is the UN recently announced that it wants global governance from the local councils. So erode the states' rights, remove national sovereignty, and have the world governed by your local Lord Mayor. Now, that is nothing that anybody wants. The local councils have no role in the Constitution. They are a convenience. They are corporations established by the states to collect rates, fix roads, and collect rubbish. And they have exceeded their expectations. They've exceeded their mandate. They spend money like a drunken sailor, and I've been on the wallop with drunken sailors, and they can spend money. And the councils make these guys look absolutely sober. And so the globalists want to degrade national sovereignty, states' rights, and control the planet. And they're doing it. As I've mentioned once before in this program, the Mayor of Newcastle signed up, and her strategic plan in Newcastle is lifted straight out of the UN agenda, word for word. And there's nothing about jobs for people that work for that area. It's got nothing to do with mines, steel. It's about $500 million over 10 years to the universities to create a crisis centre. Now, how does that help Jacko and Narelle? It doesn't. So, is there a case for more states? Absolutely. We need more states. WA needs to be looked at very carefully. New South Wales needs to be looked at very, very carefully as well. And this will make it safer and freer for every Australian. Because this competitive federalism, which is a very sound idea, will help. Queensland, when it was doing well, attracted so many of the southerners up to Queensland and made it a boom state. And the other states were failing. And if you don't believe it can happen, have a look at the US experience. The state of New York, everybody is leaving. And the asinine mayor of New York is pleading for them to come back so he can rape their bank accounts. And they're not silly, they're smart. They just left and they're gone. They're heading off to Texas. Low tax, more freedom. And so what that does is this is feedback from the people who own the country to the crooked politicians who are trying to steal it from them. So we need more states, and there's very sound reasons for it.